My world shattered when my husband called me a selfish monster for wanting to keep our baby safe. I remember the exact moment the test turned positive. A wave of pure, unadulterated joy washed over me, so powerful it left me breathless. After 2 years of marriage and 5 years together, this felt like the culmination of everything. My husband, David, and I had built a life. A complicated one, yes, given he was a full-time single dad to his 7-year-old daughter, Maya, from his first marriage, but a happy one. We'd met when Maya was 3, after David and I had been dating for a solid year. I fell in love with her big, brown eyes and shy smile almost as quickly as I'd fallen for her father. I worked hard to be the best stepmom I could be. I helped with homework, braided her hair for school, cheered at her soccer games, and she'd started calling me Mommy Anna. It wasn't always perfect, but it was our family. Before we got married, David had gently broached the idea of me being a stay-at-home mom for Maya and any future children. At the time, I'd politely declined. I was a successful marketing manager. I loved my job, my team, the intellectual challenge. The thought of being home all day, surrounded by laundry and toddler chatter, sounded suffocating. David had been understanding, and we'd moved forward with the assumption that I would always work. But pregnancy changed me. It was a fundamental biological shift I could never have anticipated. By the time I was 6 months along, I was utterly captivated by the little boy growing inside me. The idea of handing him over to a daycare provider when he was just a few weeks old felt viscerally wrong. It was a physical ache. I started thinking, planning. I was senior enough in my career that I could transition to a fully remote part-time role. My supervisor was incredibly supportive. I wouldn't have to quit. I could keep my benefits, work flexible hours, and be with my son. I could even pick Maya up from school and include her in our days. The more I thought about it, the more right it felt. One evening, after I tucked Maya into bed and read her a story, I sat down with David on the couch, my heart swelling with excitement. I've been thinking. I began, my hand resting on my belly. About after the baby comes. I've spoken to my boss, and I can work from home part-time. I can be here with our son, and for Maya, too. I really want to do this. The warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by a coldness I'd never seen before. "What?" he said, his voice dangerously low. "I want to be a stay-at-home mom," I repeated, my smile faltering. He shot up from the couch. "We had an agreement. Before we got married, we agreed you wouldn't do this. Now you're just changing your mind." His voice rose to a yell. "This is bullshit, Rebecca. Absolute bullshit." I was stunned into silence. This wasn't the reaction I'd braced for. I'd expected discussion, maybe concern about finances, not this raw fury. "It's because he's yours, isn't it?" he snarled, gesturing at my stomach. "You love him more than Maya." I knew it. I knew this would happen. You're a rotten stepmother, and this disgusting favoritism is starting before he's even born. Each word was a physical blow. "That's not true," I whispered, tears springing to my eyes. "I love Maya. This is different, that's all. I'm carrying him. It's changed my perspective. He doesn't get to have you at home if Maya didn't," he shouted. "It's not fair to her. You had your chance and you said no. So that's it. You're going back to work 2 weeks after the birth. End the discussion." He stormed out and slept on the couch. I cried myself to sleep in our bed, my heart shattered. How could he think so little of me? How could he reduce the profound, life-altering experience of my first pregnancy to a simple matter of favoritism? The next few days were icy. I was polite but distant with David, while making an extra effort to be warm and affectionate with Maya, who was blissfully unaware of the tension, just excited about her baby brother. David, however, became increasingly critical. nitpicking everything I did for Maya or around the house. The atmosphere was toxic. After another tense evening, I'd had enough. I am sick of this, I told him, my voice trembling with a mixture of hurt and anger. You are creating a poisonous environment for your daughter. If you have something to say it respectfully. He launched into another tirade, but this time I stood my ground. I will not be spoken to like this, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I want to work this out, but I will not tolerate abusive behavior. We are not talking until you can be kind. He lost it completely, screaming that he was sleeping on the couch again. Excuse me, I said, my hand on my aching lower back. I am 7 months pregnant with your son. My hips feel like they're splitting in two. I need the bed. You can join me if you can be quiet, or you can sleep out here. He looked shocked at my assertiveness, but didn't follow me. The next night, I suggested marriage counseling. He refused, saying I was the only one with a problem. When I pressed him, his argument was the same, just more twisted. He was angry I hadn't wanted to quit my job to be a stay-at-home mom for Maya, but was willing to do it for our son. He said it proved I didn't trust him financially from the beginning, which made me a bad wife. When I asked why he didn't quit his job to be a stay-at-home dad, he blustered and said he earned more and that children needed their mother more in the early years. Then he said the words that broke something in me forever. Since Maya never had the experience of a stay-at-home mom, our son shouldn't either. It's only fair. I stared at him, truly seeing him for the first time. This wasn't about fairness. This was about control. This was about punishing me and our unborn child for the past. That is the most insane thing I've ever heard. I said, my voice cold. You would deliberately deprive your son of his mother's care to satisfy some warped sense of justice? That is not being a good parent. That is being a monster. I stood up, a strange calm settling over me. I'm leaving. You have crossed a line. I will not raise my son in this controlling, abusive environment. When you've calmed down and are ready to act like a rational adult, we can discuss counseling. His face contorted in panic. You can't leave. We're a family. You can't take my son. For once, you will take Maya to school tomorrow, I said, ignoring his hysterics. And I will be gone when you get back. I went to our bedroom and started packing a bag. He followed me, and in a terrifying display, began grabbing my clothes and throwing them out of the suitcase, screaming at me. I was genuinely afraid. I'd never seen him like this. If you try to prevent me from leaving or lay a hand on me, I will call the police, I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to control it. He started sobbing great, heaving cries, and stumbled out of the room. I called my older sister, Clara. I need you to come get me right now. I don't feel safe. I finished packing, my hands trembling, and she was there within 20 minutes. I didn't look back as we drove away from the house I thought was my home. I stayed with Clara for the first week, numb and disbelieving. How had my life imploded so quickly? David went silent for a couple of days. Then the text started. Maya is crying for you. She misses you. My heart broke for that little girl. I called her, making sure she was okay, and she was sobbing, asking when I was coming home. I told her I didn't know, but that I loved her very, very much. I texted David, stop using Maya as a pawn to manipulate me. It won't work. If you mention her again as a reason for me to come back, I will delete your message without reading it. We will only discuss us and you getting into therapy. He responded by saying I was proving I was a terrible step-parent by not coming back for her. The manipulation was breathtaking. I felt my resolve harden into steel. My company was incredibly supportive, allowing me to start my maternity leave early. I also found a therapist for myself, which was a lifeline. One day, the dam broke, and I sobbed to her office for what felt like hours, grieving the family I thought I had, the husband I thought I knew, and the little girl I missed so desperately. Meanwhile, David's older brother, Ben, and his best friend, Mike, confronted him. They later told me that David had repeated his ridiculous mantra about fairness. Mike had apparently asked him what the hell he was thinking, pointing out all I'd done for Maya and how my new arrangement would benefit her. 2. Ben was blunter, calling David a controlling asshole who was punishing me for the sins of his unstable ex-wife, a woman David's family had never approved of. They told him he was ruining the best thing that had ever happened to him. This seemed to shock David into a new reality. He started blowing up my phone, begging me to come back, saying he couldn't function without me. He broke my rule again, texting that Maya wasn't doing well, which only solidified my anger. I finally replied, "Get a therapist and agree to couples counseling, or you will be served with divorce papers. I will not have my son in a toxic home." He agreed. We started couples therapy. Our therapist, Dr. Evans, was a calm, insightful woman who gently but firmly dismantled David's arguments. She explained that it was natural for me to feel a deeper bond with the child I was carrying, and that it didn't diminish my love for Maya. She highlighted that the circumstances were entirely different. I wasn't married to David when he first asked. I wasn't in a position to work remotely, and Maya, as a preschooler, didn't require the same intensive care an infant does. The key, Dr. Evans said, is that Rebecca has shown nothing but love and commitment to Maya. She isn't rejecting Maya. She's embracing motherhood in a way that feels right to her now, and that includes Maya. You are the one creating a problem where there doesn't need to be one, David. Your fear from your past marriage is clouding your judgment of your present one. For a while, it seemed like he was trying. He listened. We went on a few family outings with Maya, and it was bittersweetly wonderful. But he couldn't let it go. The core belief that I was being unfair to Maya by wanting to stay home with our son remained lodged in his mind like a tumor. He started backing out of therapy sessions, saying he felt ganged up on. He claimed no one was on his side. I asked him point blank one night, my voice quiet, "David, do you even want this baby?" He looked horrified. "Of course I do. I just want what's fair for my daughter. Punishing our son is not what's fair for your daughter," I said, my hope finally extinguishing. "It's just cruel." When he officially quit therapy, I knew it was over. I had warned him. I went to a lawyer the next week. The look on his face when he was served with divorce papers was one of pure, uncomprehending shock. He truly thought I would never follow through. I arranged everything from my sister's house. I would keep the part-time work-from-home arrangement. I formalized a custody proposal, and I made one of the hardest decisions of my life. David would not be allowed in the delivery room. He could see our son after the birth, in the waiting room, with a family member present to supervise. I was too afraid of him, of his potential to cause stress or try to control the situation during my most vulnerable moment. His family, while devastated, supported me completely. His mother called me, crying, and told me she was so sorry for what her son had done. They all planned to be at the hospital, both to support me and to act as buffers. The final weeks of my pregnancy were a whirlwind of legal documents and fetal kicks. David bombarded me with pleas and accusations. "I can't believe you're doing this. Why can't you understand me? Please, let's be a family again." My response was always the same. "You need therapy. I need to be able to trust you with our son. Show me lasting change." Maya called me often. I told her over and over that I loved her, that this was not her fault, that she was the best bonus daughter in the world. I heard from Ben that she was struggling terribly. Her grades were dropping. She was angry and sad, and she had yelled at David that he made both of her mommies leave. The guilt was a physical weight on my chest, but I knew that going back to a broken, controlling marriage would ultimately hurt her more. I went into labor on a rainy Tuesday morning. Clara drove me to the hospital. David was already there, pacing in the waiting room, his face pale. My sister-in-law, Sarah, was with him as we'd agreed. I didn't look at him as I was wheeled past. The birth of my son, Liam, was the most painful, powerful, and empowering experience of my life. When they placed him on my chest, all the turmoil and heartache faded into the background. Here was my purpose. Here was my love. An hour later, Sarah brought David into the room. He looked broken, his eyes red-rimmed. He approached the bed cautiously. "Can I hold him?" he asked, his voice hoarse. I nodded, my arms tightening instinctively around Liam for a second before I reluctantly handed him over. I watched David's face as he looked down at his son. A tear rolled down his cheek. It was a scene that should have been filled with joy, and instead it was steeped in profound sadness. "He's perfect," David whispered. "Yes, he is," I said softly. "And he deserves a happy mother, and a father who puts his well-being above his own unresolved issues." David looked at me then, and for the first time I saw a flicker of true understanding of regret, but it was too late. The trust was gone. The love had been eroded by too much cruelty and control. He visits Liam regularly now, always supervised. We are legally separated. The divorce proceedings ongoing. He is in therapy, finally. But it's a long road, and I don't know if he's doing it for himself or just to try and win me back. I have hope for him as a father, but none for us as a couple. I see Maya every other weekend. It's a fragile new normal. We have ice cream. We talk about school and her brother, and we carefully avoid talking about the future. She calls me Mommy Anna still, and every time she does, my heart both soars and breaks a little. I look at my son, now 2 months old, sleeping in his bassinet. His face is peaceful, untouched by the drama that surrounded his entrance into the world. I made a choice that shattered a family, but I believe it was the only choice that could have saved us. I chose to break the cycle, to refuse to let my son pay for the sins of a woman who came before me. The path ahead is lonely and steeped in a complex grief, but it is my path. And for the sake of my son, and for the little girl I still love as my own, I will walk it with my head held high.